we're going to be doing a top 10 Microsoft Teams announcements, or really around even Microsoft 365 in general as well. So just to quickly start off, my name is Habib Mankel. I'm based out of Ottawa, Canada. I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP and independent consultant working on Microsoft 365 platform. Dino?
And hey, my name's Dino Caputo. I'm also an Office Apps and Services MVP, and I am based just outside of Toronto, Canada, in a little town called Oakdale, Ontario. Kurt?
Hey folks, nice to meet you all. I'm up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, along with Habib, and I'm an Office and Apps MVP. Have been for about 10 years now, if you consider going back to OCS and Skype, and have a lot of experience with Exchange too. So really happy to present for you today. And Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Lammeltang. I'm also an Office Apps and Services MVP, 7 years now. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So I'm the furthest west out of the group. I also posted our blog in the chat. So if you want to check it out, we post every 2 weeks.
Awesome. So yeah, for this session, we broke it out into a couple of different sections. So we're going to be covering a little bit on the Power Platform, vNext, some SharePoint items, Teams with regards to devices, licensing, and extensibility, and in addition, a change on the M365 Defender side of things. So Dino, why don't you start us off with the Power Platform?
Yeah, thanks, Hab. So I'm going to start off by talking about the Power Platform. There were many exciting announcements made with respect to this platform. And just as a quick introduction, the Power Platform is a low-code platform that spans Office 365, Azure, Dynamics 365, and then standalone applications. And then the 4 key applications that make up Power Platform are Power Apps, which is the low-code application dev environment, Power BI, which is their business analytics tool, and then Power Virtual Agents, which provides virtual agents or bots. And lastly, there's Power Automate, which provides workflow automation. So this would be the artist formerly known as Flow. So several announcements around this entire stack, but specifically with respect to Teams, I wanted to first talk about Power Apps and something called Microsoft Dataverse. So this was formerly called the Common Data Service, or you may have heard of it as CDS, which served as the data repository for Power Apps. So think about like tables, rows, columns of any data item that you need to store for an application. So at Ignite, they announced something called Project Oakdale, not Oakville for where I'm from, but Oakdale, which is a subset of the Common Data Service that would work within Teams. The idea being that anyone using Teams could develop a Power App right from Microsoft Teams at no additional cost, which is pretty cool. Earlier this week, Microsoft renamed Project Oakdale to Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So we have Microsoft Dataverse, which was the Common Data Service, and then Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, which was Project Oakdale. So hopefully that's not too confusing, but now that we have that straight, we can move on. And the key takeaway from all of this was that millions of users around the world can now take advantage of, again, at no additional cost, the ability to build low-code apps, automate processes, and develop chatbots, all without having to leave the comfort of the Teams client. And clearly this call has been answered, given that since the preview of adding Power Platform into Teams, customers have placed like 20 terabytes of data into the Dataverse for Teams in the 2 months since it's previewed. Again, pretty amazing stuff. On a personal note, like I'm not a developer, but I'm excited to see where this will all go. Satya made the comment that 500 million apps are going to be created in the next 5 years, which is more apps than have been built in the last 40 years. So that's pretty incredible statistic right there. After the announcement, I wanted to get started doing this, so I installed Power Apps for Teams and was able to, quickly create a data table and write a small app that tracked all the podcasts I do over at BC Strategies. It was quite eye-opening for me, so I would encourage you all to go give it a spin and try it out for yourself. Next, on to Power Virtual Agents. Just like you have the ability to create Power Apps and Teams, you can do the same thing with Power Virtual Agents. Imagine being able to quickly and easily create a chatbot for right within Teams. Again, right in the Teams client. You can help employees stay informed, be productive, get connected with bots, answer frequently asked questions that HR might get, service desks or other business units. Just a few examples of what you might be able to do with this is, say you're in the payroll department and you decide to create a chatbot that helps teammates get information about how to fill out a tax form. You're a facilities manager that is getting a lot of questions about back to work protocols during a pandemic. So you decide you want to create a bot to answer those questions. An HR employee can create a bot that answers questions about vacation balances or time off and benefits, things like that. So it's pretty easy to get started with virtual agents. I particularly like that you can just point to online material and the agent will go and ingest the content right into the bot, and it'll help you formulate the questions that users might ask the bot. So that's really powerful stuff. So you can just point it to like a SharePoint site and it'll start looking for information and formulating questions for you. Next up, we have Power BI in Teams. And with respect to Power BI and Teams, it's basically Microsoft's making it easier to discover data from across your organization and quickly create visualizations and data sets right within Teams. Before this, you could connect to Power BI in Teams. That's nothing new. You could always just connect to a Power BI report that you created, which was great because you can consume and collaborate right within Teams about data sets. But the new Power BI app that was just released lets you connect and experience Power BI right within the Teams client. Again, there's the common theme here is being able to do everything right from within the Teams client. So you don't have to leave Teams, go into a browser, open up Power BI, do your work, and then come back. You can do it all within the Teams client. And last up in this stack is the Power Automate for Teams. So over the past year, there's been a lot of integration with Power Automate and Teams. Microsoft introduced features like trigger a flow from any message in Teams and new actions for creating meetings and at mentioning your coworkers, all of which makes the user experience better in Teams. So the next big thing, which was announced at Ignite and rolled out recently, is the Revamped Powerapp for Teams. So a nice brand new shiny app that you can install into Teams. And several updates in this app now make flow acquisition much easier within Teams. So there's like a brand new homepage that's been developed that lets you quickly see all the different flows associated with Teams, all the flows that you have created, who owns these flows, and a view of the team or the channel that this flow may impact. So that's pretty cool. And then there's like 50 new templates that Microsoft's built out that make it really, really simple to get started with flow. So you can, right out of the gate, they've dropped 50 templates that you can go and choose from. You might have an idea to do something. There's probably a template to do that today. But if there isn't, you can still create a flow from scratch. So that's great. So do go check that out and see if you can give flow a spin. So the last thing up for me is what's up with Skype for Business Server. So I don't know how many Skype for Business Server fans we have on the call today, but if you're like me, I spent a lot of time working with Skype for Business Service as my colleagues. So if you were able to join a session at Ignite from Lisa McKee and Laszlo Sami, it was called On Skype for Business, Design Your Path to Microsoft Teams. It's still available if you want to go watch it. Laszlo talked about Skype for Business Server vNext, which is until the product name is created, vNext is like the reference to the unofficial name of the product. Given that, so obviously there's going to be a new Skype for Business Server. We don't know the name yet. Given that they announced it would be in the second half of 2021, it's speculated that it's going to be called Skype for Business Server 2022. So we'll see about that. So what do we know about this new version so far? For starters, that's the next version of Skype for Business Server will be subscription-based model, meaning that it will use the cloud-based licensing that we're all used to in Office 365 versus the CAL-based model that it's used up until this time. Exchange and SharePoint are also going to be using this subscription-based licensing model as well. So obviously a big change there. In terms of upgrading, for orgs that are running Link Server 2013 or Skype for Business Server 2015, it will be the traditional side-by-side upgrade approach where you have to build out brand new servers and then move users. But if you are, an in-place upgrade will be available for anybody running Skype for Business Server 2019 for about 2 years after they release VNext. So it'll give those that have already migrated to 2019 2 years to be able to take advantage of the in-place upgrade. And why, the in-place upgrade just allows you simply to run the code right on the server without having to deploy net new boxes. Mainstream support is still in effect until 2024 for Skype for Business Server 2019, with both Link 2013 and 2015 now in extended support. So you're only going to get like major security updates for those products. And lastly, if you were running Link Server 2013 and Skype for Business Server 2015, really the recommendation is to upgrade to Skype for Business 2019. And the reason being is that when VNext does release, then you'll be ready to take advantage of that subscription-based model and without having to do another major upgrade. So if you can, that's the current recommendation, is to get yourself on 2019. If for whatever reason you need to stay on-prem, obviously if you can move to Teams, that would be ideal. But there's a lot of reasons right now for certain organizations that they need to stay on-prem. So if that's the case, then the recommendation is to upgrade to Skype for Business Server 2019. And with that, that's it for all of my Ignite updates. And I'm going to pass it over to Habib.
Thanks, Dino. Yeah. So from my perspective, I'm going to talk a little bit more on the SharePoint side of things. So first off, there's a new home site for Teams application that's going to be become available. I guess sometime, I think in the March timeframe, they were saying. This, if you've ever utilized the Getting Started app, that was a free app that Microsoft provided where you can add in sort of some SharePoint sites, and if you included Microsoft Learning Pathways, you could have that included in there. It's just basically an application that would sit in the top left-hand corner of your Teams client. But there were some nuances with it, as is, if you added a SharePoint site today, you didn't have the top navigation bar. You had to do some workarounds in it where you put the navigation bar at the bottom so that users can still get to the places that they needed to within the SharePoint site. So with the new home site for Teams, you can now include your internal organization intranet site by default, and it will include the navigation bar, and it's really truly the full SharePoint experience within that. So that's something that's going to be coming, and it's a lot more user-friendly from an end-user perspective. Secondly, one of the long-awaited ones was being able to have, I guess with regards to stream, where are my recordings stored? So currently today, everybody's Teams meeting or channel meetings are currently stored in Stream. The biggest issues with that is that, there was no ability to have retention, no sensitivity. You could not have any, there was no easy way to do external sharing. You really just had to download the video, put it either within your SharePoint site or within your OneDrive and share it that way. So the big announcement is these recordings will be now moved from Stream to SharePoint and OneDrive. So from a OneDrive perspective, the recordings that are stored there are meetings that are sent that are not within a channel, so they're stored and saved within my OneDrive. Any recordings that are done within a or from a meeting that's in a channel, a team channel, those would be stored within SharePoint. So out of the box, so I guess today I should say, you have the ability to enable this functionality by modifying the Teams meeting policy. So if you want to get started and play around with it, or create a new policy for some of your users within your organization to see how that works. January 1st, all the Teams meetings and recordings, January 11th, I should say, will be automatically set to go to OneDrive and SharePoint. But you can delay it if you wanted to, because if you're not ready to move that stuff from Stream. And then March 1st, only recordings will be able to be done within OneDrive and SharePoint. And then July 7th, if you're working within EDU tenants, you will have that capability there. There are some limitations that I want to note. So will be English only, closed captions and transcript. You won't be able to search the transcripts or their content, I guess, on day one. I'm sure that's stuff that they're going to be wanting to come out with later. And additionally, you won't be able to edit the transcripts, but you'll be able to toggle the caption on or off when that functionality hits. And then third, I want to talk a little bit more about the new Insights and Wellbeing app that's going to be put into Microsoft Teams. It's a new menu within there. It allows you to, given that we're all working from home, there's not a lot of time from a commute perspective, to have that little bit of a break between your workday and your home life. So it gives you some options within there to be able to have like a virtual commute to start and end your day. Allows you to, I guess, plan your time or schedule time for yourself with regards to well-being. They have an integration. They're going to be doing an integration with Headspace to provide mindfulness, to be able to take that time to, just relax and have that bit of time to yourself and sort of avoid burnout as well. And then it also provides analytics to managers and also allows them to do emotional check-ins with their employees and their staff in order to make sure that, everybody is doing well, mentally as well, right? And then, there's additional things that are coming in as well if you don't have it, which is the daily briefing email from Cortana that lets you, a little bit more about your day and potential follow-ups and I guess things to look out for from previous emails. And lastly is the Sharepoint Syntax, which is the first tool that has come out of the Project Cortex initiative. And if you're not sure what Project Cortex is, it's an initiative that Microsoft has going on now to allow you to innovate. They're innovating to be able to extract, manage, and access knowledge from your own content. So Sharepoint Syntax is the first thing that has come out of it. It is an add-on. What it does is it allows you to create different models to look and go through your data. Basically, it's training machine learning algorithm to recognize certain documentation, content within the document, or teach and recognize a certain type of information. So there's two different types. There's document and understanding models, and then there's form processing models, right? And what happens is it applies AI to amplify human expertise and convert that information into knowledge for the organization. So it helps people find information and process information faster. It will allow you to apply sensitivity and retention labels, manage process, and it's brought together by utilizing Azure, Microsoft Research, and Microsoft 365 within your environment, and really just helps the organization make sense of their data. So that's it from the SharePoint syntax perspective. So Michael, why don't I pass it over to you and give us a little bit of talk about Teams and devices and such.
Perfect. Yeah, so the three items that I'm taking from the top 10 announcements are around Teams devices, enterprise voice within Teams, and licensing. Obviously licensing isn't pretty, but it's there's some key items there. So anyone that's keeping track of our top 10, Dino covered two of our top 10. Hav has covered 3. I'm doing 3, and then Kurt's going to take the last 2. So when we look at Teams devices, and man, Ignite has been a long time, seems to be quite some time ago. But when we look at devices, one of the big announcements from that category with at Ignite was device as a service. So this is an option from Microsoft now to, and it's going to be launched before end of year, I still believe. And this is monthly payment plans, different financing options. And this will cover headsets, speakerphones, webcams, desk phones, rooms, and even rooms accessories. I believe this is right now being fronted by unifiedcommunications.com. So at least in the US, maybe there'll be more partners, and as it goes into, say, Canada, maybe there'll be different partners. But yeah, right now, this is kind of, you can go to the Microsoft page, grab your Teams room devices or Teams devices. It'll redirect you to unifiedcommunications.com, and then it'll kind of go through that process of giving you that device as a service option. It looks like someone's unmuted. I'll just, someone wants to mute that person. There we go. So yeah, this will give you, a different option instead of upfronting, purchasing all that equipment for your rollout. So a welcome addition to come out for getting those devices in front of your users. The other option, other item coming early 2021 is affordable Teams phones. So right now the Teams phones are, kind of a large display. They're running Android. They do have a kind of a higher cost point. But we are going to see devices from both AudioCodes and Yealink, as well as Poly, that are going to be a lower end price model, so that you can have that in common areas, maybe in warehouses, or scenarios where maybe the more expensive phones get a little bit beat up. Also, Microsoft announced a new device persona. So these are Teams displays. And so Lenovo ThinkSmart View, which I have on my desk right now. You can't have it in this layout. It's meant like this for now. But basically, this device from Lenovo and Yealink has one that's coming soon. It has a new firmware on it, so it's not the IP phone kind of layout. It is meant for kind of that collaboration and going beyond just a handset. And this is really Microsoft's evolution of an IP handset, or say a video phone like the Yealink VP59. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves and the personas that gets out into the workforce. The other new persona was Teams panels. And so Teams panels coming from Yealink as well as Crestron. Yealink is building a lot of hardware, it seems, for Teams. But this is the evolution of scheduling panels. So this is being able to pair the panel to the technology in the room, which would be like a Microsoft Teams room, being able to do things like people counting and having those warnings on that display saying, hey, this room's at capacity or this room's available. So it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft takes those scheduling panel technologies and involves it with Teams. You could also run custom apps. So maybe this will be a scenario where it takes on like that digital signage realm and evolving from there. Another device that's coming out is intelligent speakers. So this is coming from, again, Yealink and EPOS. And this is a speaker or a puck type device that will go into a Microsoft Teams room, and it'll have advanced speech recognition. So this will be able to, discover who said what in a room, so that people are taking notes. You don't have to, spend as much effort taking notes. You can kind of use the technology in the room. And then one of the few last announcements around devices was the Microsoft Collab bars are being renamed to Microsoft from the Windows Microsoft Teams room coming to us, this device persona. I have one kind of off to my side. But basically, we'll be getting dual displays. We'll get improved video resolution. We'll have a touch console, HDMI ingest, personal mode. So a lot of features coming to that Android-based device. And then kind of to top it up on the device side is the Surface Hub 85-inch is supposed to be coming out early next year. So it'll be, I've been pushing Microsoft to be in the TAP program and get one of those devices, but I'm not successful yet. But it'll be interesting to see the scenarios with the 85-inch touch hub. Going on to my next item, enterprise voice, near and dear to our hearts. So the big announcement was the Survival Branch Appliance. So it's making its debut in Teams from the Skype for Business world. So that's the SBA, and this is really taking a physical SBC that's that session border controller that's in a local office, and when we lose internet connectivity, being able to have that alternative path for telephony for your phone to call out to the local carrier. And this is going to be paired with the Teams offline mode. So now, Teams can't connect to the Microsoft services, direct routing or calling plans, that's not going to be functioning over the internet. We can now use that survivable branch appliance to bring that telephony service. Now, this is supposed to go GA before end of year, with the first release not supporting peer-to-peer calling within the site, but we should see that in the future. And this is going to be coming from, I think the first wave is going to be Audio Codes, Oracle, Ribbon, and T systems for their SBC support. So if you have scenarios where you have, you need to provide emergency services in that branch location and the internet is kind of spotty, this is going to be that unlocking that scenario for you for Teams Voice. The next item is the SIP gateway. So Microsoft made mention of this. I think it's going to be first half of next year. And this is going to support core calling, but this is the ability to now take or repurpose some of your SIP-based handsets and register right to the Microsoft service. So you're not going to have to register to a session border controller or an ATA type device. And this, I believe, the core calling features is basic dial pad, hold, transfer, do not disturb. And the likely devices that will be supported are Cisco IP phones that support the MPP firmware, so the open source SIP, open SIPs firmware. And I believe that's the 6800 series, the 7800 series, the 8800 series, and 8900 series. From Audio Codes, we'll see probably the 400 HD. Poly will see the kind of the full VVX line, so VVX 100 to 600 series. Yealink will see the T20 to T50 series, so all the models between. And that's kind of what was mentioned as the first wave. I see this as evolving in the future, so being able to register other phones like SIP ATAs, wireless phones, DECT phones. So it'll be interesting to see how fast this evolves and unlocking some of those scenarios where you have paging systems and analog and wireless needs. There isn't going to be any additional licensing, at least that's what they've said now. It's going to be licensed based on the users, right? So the user still needs to have a phone system license, either in an E5 or as an add-on to an E3. They're still going to need, some kind of PSTN service, either direct routing or calling plans. My last category is licensing. So the big one is free audio conferencing for a year. So Microsoft announced this. This started in October 1st. It's available until March 31st. You have to activate it before the end of March. And this gives you 1 year free for your users to have audio conferencing. So if you have an E5, you already have audio conferencing, but this is the ability to bring that dial-in bridge to your online meetings. And this will be available for any of the SKUs that didn't have an audio conferencing included. The next item is advanced communications. So this is an add-on license as well. It's not part of an E5, so it's an add-on regardless of your SKU. The big announcement was that the APIs that were originally in this SKU are no longer in that SKU. So this is the APIs to do communication compliance, contact center. All those have been removed, and now they're not that additional cost. But Microsoft has offered 35% off of the SKU. I think the SKU is about $12 a user a month. This is that 35% off is available till the end of January. But this allows you to have 20,000 attendees in a live event, allows you to have 1,000-person online meeting that can roll over to that 20,000. So this is a new feature that's coming, not available yet. And then some of the customizations around branding. So now you can have meeting lobby customizations, and this might be good for marketing and stuff like that. So this would be licensed per the organizer. So if you have, you're doing a bunch of webinars and stuff, you can bring that corporate branding into that lobby and run those sessions. It just needs to be the organizer that books it. And then the last one was advanced audit in Microsoft 365. So this does require a base SKU of an E5 or G5, and it's going to be available early 2021. And this, an E3 normally has 90-day retention in the audit log. E5 has 1 year. This advanced audit SKU will have 10-year audit log. So if you have any kind of compliance or regulatory needs to keep, the records of who did what and what workload and what time, this is going to be pretty powerful for those scenarios. And you don't have to license all your users, just the users that need to fall into that realm. but that new SKU should be early 2021. And with that, I'll throw it to Kurt for the last two items.
All right, thanks, Michael. We saved the best for last. So couple topics I wanted to cover was in the area of extensibility. So one of the things announced at Ignite for Microsoft Teams was meeting extensions. So this gives partners the ability to use an API and extension points to integrate their applications right into the Teams meeting experience. And when you think about it, being able to integrate the app right in the context of the meeting makes for a richer experience. It'll allow people to take actions directly right from the meeting. So this applies to both pre, during, and post meetings. There'll be different ways you can extend the meeting for those different phases of a meeting. So the extensibility points allow developers to access like the meeting roster, the meeting notes, the meeting roles, and do things like embed meeting tabs, side panels, do content notifications. And I really think this is going to really increase the productivity of meetings, because when you look at how much just Microsoft Teams in general has increased the pace of work, I think a lot of people have trouble keeping up with all the action items from meetings and following up with all the things that were discussed. So allowing partners, and at Ignite there was 20 of them announcing applications which extend the meeting experience. I think that's really going to allow people to really just be more productive inside of meetings. So some of the partners that were announced at Ignite were ServiceNow and PagerDuty, which when you think about ServiceNow, it's really going to allow companies to do incident and resolution management right inside the meeting. And you can do things like create a help desk ticket if the meeting's about troubleshooting. You can do some update an incident right on the fly inside the meeting. And they also cited 3 or 4 big project management partners. And you can think about managing a project and having those applications like Monday.com and Asana just directly integrated in with the meeting. So I think that's going to be really powerful. Also on the extensibility front, a subject that I know a lot about. I work for a partner called Quest Software, and we do a lot of tenant-to-tenant migrations. And with Microsoft Teams, as some of you are aware, there was quite a few limitations doing tenant-to-tenant migrations in Microsoft Teams. So announced at Ignite was general availability of a new import API for Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft's intent with this API was really to allow ISVs and partners to migrate content from a third-party collaboration solution like Slack into Teams. But the interesting thing is most of the ISVs were just really excited because it allowed them to unlock some scenarios for tenant-to-tenant migration. And if anyone's done a tenant-to-tenant migration, some of the problems that existed were when you migrated a channel message from the source tenant to the destination, you couldn't recreate the original author or the original timestamp. So this new import API unblocks those scenarios. And it also just has greater fidelity for the various channel messages, things like emoticons and some other things in channel messages. So that was long waited for by a number of big companies that were doing acquisitions and mergers and really needed to migrate from tenant to tenant. And also recently announced, and I think this was just post Ignite, but there's been a new export API also paired with the import API. And the big one there is that enables you to export private chat messages, which there was previously no API to get at those. So this can also be used to back up Teams content. So it's exciting to see that that released. And I'm sure you'll see partners and ISVs take advantage of that. And we usually don't talk about this, but another set of announcements around Microsoft Defender and Advanced Threat Protection. So Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection was completely rebranded at Ignite into the Microsoft 365 Defender umbrella. And basically all of the endpoint solutions and all of the individual security solutions were rebranded under the Microsoft Defender umbrella. And I bring this up because in this era of work from home and work from anywhere that was sort of thrust upon a lot of companies, security is always at the forefront, and it's even more so now. And specifically with Microsoft Teams, that advanced threat protection capability gives two really important security features. One is the ability to block malicious files, and the other is to prevent phishing attacks by blocking malicious URLs from being posted into Teams. All Microsoft 365 plans include that base ATP functionality, but if you're on one of the Office 365 SKUs, you'll have to buy an add-on for ATP Plan 1. I think there's like 3 ATP plans, but all you need is that base ATP Plan 1, which gives you the safe attachments and safe links in Teams. So that's something to be aware of. Also, I'll call out Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which just used to be called Microsoft Endpoint Protection. Again, it's rolled into the Defender brand. They announced general availability of protection for Android and iOS devices. So if you have unmanaged devices running Teams, this gives you some controls over running Teams on those devices. For example, you can block Teams from running on those devices and just redirect the user to a web browser to consume Teams. Other than that, one last one on the Teams front was this. It addressed one of the biggest pain points for enterprises deploying Teams. Teams is evolving so quickly. Microsoft is releasing so many preview features. They announced the ability to control which users get the preview features and which don't. So this is implemented as an update policy within Microsoft Teams. And the policy is pretty simple. It just includes on or off. And if you have that policy on and you apply it to a user, they'll be able to use the Teams preview features in your organization. So that's a good way to help sort of control the deployment of new Teams features. So that's about it. I'll pass it back to Habib, and I think we're going to do a little roundtable.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. That was great. So I guess, yeah, from a roundtable perspective, I think first thing I'd like to ask is see if there's any questions from anybody listening in. If there's any questions with regards to anything we have discussed so far, feel free to put it in the chat so we can answer those for you, or also like raise hand and I'll call on you. You can definitely come off mute and ask your question. Yeah.
I think there were a lot of questions in the chat. I think people have just been kind of helping and answering them as you go. See if we have any that hasn't been answered.
Okay. Oh yeah, there was one, and I'll put it towards Michael. What is the licensing needed for the Power Platform?
For the Power Platform? I don't think we have enough time in this call. So the licensing that you get within your Office SKUs are basic integrations with Office services. So if you want to, pull into SharePoint, you want to pull into Outlook, all the standard connectors are included. When you start going beyond the standard connectors, that's when your licensing changes. So if you're trying to connect to any Azure service like Azure Storage Tables or Compute, functions, APIs, those are going to be all the premium SKUs. What is interesting is what was formerly Project Oakdale, Dataverse, is within Teams, the licensing, or you get access to the API management feature within Azure. So you could use API management within your Azure subscription to front some of those APIs that you have for calls to your on-prem infrastructure, or maybe logic apps or flow items, and now you don't have to pay for that license. So that premium connector is coming within Teams. It's still a premium connector outside of Teams. So it'll be interesting to see how the two worlds go. But yeah, for the most part, if you want to integrate into any kind of third party through an API, it's going to be a premium license.
And I think that, you know, in our last conversation that we had with John Levesque, who's a evangelist on the Power Platform, he also mentioned that, you know, they are going to be looking into, I guess, taking that, whatever you configured in the Project Oakdale or Dataverse, and moving that into the full Power Platform as well, right? I think that, do you know, that was one of your...
Yeah, there's not a lot of details about that right now, but they've stated that there will be a migration path. So if you've started off, you've created something in Project Oakdale or Dataverse for Teams, which is called now, then there'll be an option for you to get into the full-blown Microsoft Dataverse if you need to.
Right. And then I think there was a few other ones that we didn't really discuss because we're you know, we wanted to make sure that we had enough time for everyone. But Michael, did you talk about the new, or can you talk about the new Teams booking panels that you know?
Yeah, I covered those. Yeah, those are the devices coming from Crestron and Yealink. Yeah.
Right. I thought you were talking about the Lenovo devices, the one that you showed up in your hand there.
Yeah, there's Teams displays, Teams panels, Teams intelligent speakers, and Microsoft Teams rooms for Android and Windows. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
We talk about I think we talk about the room booking, right, in our one of our previous podcasts. So if you want to check it out, we'll post the link. And I believe I specifically talked about the booking panels. Hopefully we can get back to doing meetings in person at some point soon and take advantage of those. But for now, I'm not sure that there's a lot of use for them.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's good. It's something to think about for when, you know, the, you know, back to work or, you know, happens kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of enterprises starting to build out their Microsoft Teams room strategy and put those rooms in, because those rooms aren't booked right now, right? So before the problem was how do you take an executive room offline for a week or whatever to build?
Definite fast and furious construction happening at many of my customers, upgrading rooms and whatnot.
So there's a question from Lauren. The home site that will allow you to show in Teams, how will that look on SharePoint? Will a bar be displayed on SharePoint? Any good places to find more information? Yeah, so the actual home site app will be displayed in Teams just above the, I think it's the activity button or in your left-hand rail. So it'll actually be within SharePoint, within Teams. And when you click on it, it really just is exposing your intranet site within that home app. So it's not going to look any different than you browsing to your SharePoint site, your intranet site in a browser. So it'll be the same. And I think I can take a look and see if I'll find a link to get information on that for the home site.
Habib, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Has anyone heard anything about integrating Microsoft Translator deeper into Teams chat or video calls?
So the translator is available in chat today, right? So you enable that within your Teams policy, where if somebody types within their native language, then you can right click on the message and say translate. I'm not sure if I've heard anything with regards to any of the AI doing the translation like you would do a live event where you can specify the different languages for meetings. But I'm thinking that it's something that, you know, I think that they would potentially be looking at, but I haven't heard anything with regards to doing live translation within Teams just yet.
Thank you.
Anybody else, guys? Did you guys hear any of that?
Yeah.
I know they do it in live events, but I haven't heard anything that they're doing it in meetings, right? The translation for chat today, though.
Yeah, I would say that maybe that's an evolution of the transcription stuff that's coming with the recordings and stuff, but I haven't heard anything about the roadmap.
So Michael, just looking at all the devices on your rack there, what's your favorite just for meetings, audio and video?
So my actual go-to device right now, which I'm using is for this audio, is the Crestron UC2. Right now it's just the conference phone version, so it doesn't have the compute. It's not a Microsoft Teams room. This is what has replaced the Trio that's been on my desk for the last, like, it seems like a decade, but it runs a Teams client very well as an IP phone, but it's also USB to my Surface. So all my audio is off it. It has a pretty good sound. It has, you know, presence and everything on it. So that's my go-to device. But right next to it, I have the display, the Lenovo display. Once it has the other orientation, I'll probably use it quite a bit more. But those are the kind of devices sitting on my desk.
Cool.
Anyone else have questions, concerns? Funny anecdote they'd like to share?
Well, I think, yeah, I think we're coming up on time anyway. So yeah, if there's any other questions, we'd love to field them for you.
Oh, guys, this is Tiernan with the user group. Michelle had to step away to prep for her 1 o'clock meeting, but I just wanted to thank you guys for your time and your information. It's always great to hear from Microsoft subject matter experts on the latest and greatest and what's to come. We definitely appreciate your support of our user group and the community, and it's been a great session.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Couple of housekeeping items for those still in attendance. First, I will draw the name for the $25 gift card for this session and put it in my randomizer. The winner is some guy named William Shatner. I don't know, Canadian, eh? No, the winner is Travis Norman. So Travis, I'll use the email address that you're logged in with right now to send you that. And yes, you can have my background, Carol, and you can join me. I got a couple bottles back here. Guys, actually, you've kind of inspired me to change our speaker gifts for next time we're in person to hockey jerseys. Those things look amazing. We're going to get some M365 branded hockey jerseys made up. And do
Nice. Good call.
Real quick, logistically, a couple people have been having issues with the emailed links to the individual breakout sessions. So in the chat, I have just posted the URL for the events calendar. We've had zero problems with those. So for your 1 o'clock sessions, please join those meetings back through the website and not the email links. Again, thank you all for joining this lunchtime breakout, and I hope you enjoy the 1 o'clock and 2:30 sessions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Guys.
Have a good one.